Welcome. So another episode of Above Average FPL. It's me, Baker. Not on my own, but this is the first ever episode of Above Average FPL without Adam. Got some work commitments and availability. It's really busy time now. We haven't got long left, so we said we'll do the odd lone wolf and see what we need to do. But I am joined by FPL Jan.
Yeah, that's how it's pronounced.
I'll let you pronounce Jan Kepski.
Yeah, Kepski, that's my name. Yeah, hello. Very happy to be here. Thank you for having me. And yeah, how are you?
Yeah, very well, very well. Really excited. We don't know each other, so I'll probably just verse that is we've odd tweet and stuff, interactions and stuff, but first time speaking. But I'll say is I've been aware of you for a couple of years. I'm not going to go full fanboy that I've done, but I can see, whenever you've ever put in like your game week 1 team or your wildcard team or stuff team, always seem to have an idea. I look at it and go, I like that. I like that a lot, and rightly so, because your rank history. So I'm going to read this out for people in terms of your rank history in case I don't know what you're there. So this last season, your rank was 234th. Season before, it was 33k. Season before that, it was rank 100. Season before that was rank 936. Season before that, 18k.
Yeah, we can skip the older one.
We can skip the others, but 3 times in the top 1,000, and even 1,000 feels like it doesn't do justice to it. 234th, 100th, and 936th in the last 3 or 4 years. But everyone's just going to ask, how'd you do it, yeah?
Certainly a lot of luck involved on top of some good play, and I think it's very unlikely that to ever repeat that for me, to have 3 top 1,000 finishes in 4 years. It's very, very, very unlikely for anyone, no matter how well you play, because even if you play at the level of the best manager in the world, whoever that is, it's super unlikely for him to have that rate of top 1k finishes in any individual season. It's unlikely to finish in top 1k no matter how well you play, because even everybody needs some significant amount of luck to finish in top 1k no matter how well you play. And I'm not trying to be too modest about it, because I think I'm quite good at this game, but even so, I needed a lot of luck certainly to finish where I did.
Wow, look, the old Gary Player, the more you practice, the luckier you get type thing. Like after you've hit those first 2, then you have the 33k. Like hit it again, you still got it. 3 out of 4. That is phenomenal. So that's why you're here, mate, because you do so well. But also, one of the things that I really noticed, you did a really good podcast before the start of last season with our friend Sertau. And what I really noticed from you is that one is, I was straight off the bat, you talked about sort of transfers into the season. And I noticed like this man gets a lot of things from a football perspective, and then obviously you're very well known in the analytics community. And you described yourself, I think, at the time, a hybrid manager. You still declaring yourself a hybrid manager?
I'm not sure. I use a lot of data, obviously, every week, and obviously before the start of the season. But at the same time, I watch really a lot of football, and not only Premier League, because when I watch the Premier League games, I'm always some kind of emotionally involved, because either I have players whom I own in these games, and even if I don't, there might be a highly owned player in that game. So there's always some kind of emotional involvement whenever I watch Premier League. So for that reason, and to have some more pure watches, I tend to also watch some other top European leagues like Serie A or La Liga. These are my two other ones that I really enjoy. And yeah, so I watch a lot of football because I like it, not to have success in FPL. This is just a byproduct of it, I guess.
So basically, for any new people that are watching this, is that if you start getting really into FPL, you'll hate football in the Premier League. That's what you're saying, effectively. So you need a little side gig where it's like, I
Yeah,
can watch this.
maybe even for me, because there's no team that I really support as a football team. So for me, all of the emotion that I get from football is from FPL basically. So yeah, it also counts into it.
Well, I am very jealous of that because it's a constant pain for me. Yes. So like seasons, we're just over a week away. But obviously the game's been out for a couple of months. What were your immediate thoughts and when the game launched, and how's that sort of manifesting as we're getting nearer the season start?
Okay, so at the very beginning when the game launched, I wasn't very enthusiastic about it, euphemistically speaking, because I thought the pricing wasn't too good. I mean, when I saw Balogun being 4.5 million, I had a thought of maybe I should hang up my boots now because it was just an abomination of a price. So because a guy who scored 21 goals in top 5 European league being priced at 4.5, I thought that was the point of playing. If he gets either he forces his way into Arsenal team or he gets transferred to West Ham, Crystal Palace, whatever, he will be certainly a game breaker, and that takes the fun out of this game.
Yeah.
And I can't remember ever since I started playing there ever been a worse pricing decision than that, I think, because I remember cases like Harry Kane being 5 million, but his record before that wasn't that. He obviously turned out to be a massive bargain during the season, but he didn't have records such as Balogun's before that. So I don't know if I remember any worse decision than that.
Well, I do kind of hope that we don't see him use that price, because it will make stuff very odd, very similar to where Greenwood a few seasons back, where it's something like, oh god, I can afford everybody else because I've got a £4.5 million player. But in general, I guess so pricing a little bit, and I guess just in general, other than that, anything else caught your eye? Obviously, Liverpool guys. Well, let's tackle that. Let's go straight into Liverpool guys. Why not? Let's open the door.
To be honest, during preseason, I've had a little bit of a detox from watching preseason games because generally I don't enjoy them that much. I never enjoyed them that much. So I think I watched only one, which was Manchester City versus Yokohama, because I had time exactly then. But apart from that, I think I didn't watch a single game. I just watched European under-21 championship in Georgia because I was there and had the opportunity to go to some games there. But apart from that, like nothing. And I think right now, like a week and a half before the start of the season, is a perfect time to start really thinking about the game. I mean, I will certainly watch the Community Shield on Sunday and then go from there. But about Liverpool, I'm certainly interested to see how it will go for them this season. I mean, at this point, I'm pretty sure that I won't have any of them in my game week 1 team. I think that the two, of course, most talked about players are Mo Salah and TAA.
Yeah.
But both of them, I think, are fairly priced as far as their potential goes. But because so many players are underpriced, both in midfield and in defense, at the moment, I don't think that the difference between them is worth this outlay on either Salah or Alexander-Arnold. So, and to add to that, the opening fixtures are not that good apart from Bournemouth at home in game week 2. So I think there's a good opportunity to jump on them will be in game week 9, either through wildcard or through some planned transfers. because they start a really good fixtures run then, and so I will think about it later. But for now, I'm not really considering Liverpool players for my game week 1 team.
Mentioned game week 9 and just in general, like what's the general approach to game week 1, and like how many weeks do you tend to plan? Like how does that work for you?
I don't have any specific number of game weeks that I look at, because I think it would make sense if I had time that I will want to wildcard in set in stone. Like if I was 100% sure that I will want to wildcard in game week 9, then of course you only look at 8 fixtures, 8 game weeks. But because I don't, I have no idea when I will wildcard. I've had a look at fixtures, and I have two times when it's possible to maybe wildcard, like game week 9 and right after Man City's blank at the end of the first half of the season. But apart from that, I just look at basically the whole first half of the season, of course with DK. So that means that I value the first game week the most, and then as we go on, I value every next game week a little bit less. And I think that there's no point in looking at like exactly 6 game weeks, because then you put some value on game week 6, and then you put 0 value on game week 7, and you have no idea if you will have already wildcarded before game week 7 or not. So I look at the first half of the season, the first wildcard window as a whole, but just with DK.
That makes sense. I think it's interesting words where we had a brief chat beforehand just about, you know, the analytics world and so forth, and it's really interesting where we just choose different words. You know, sometimes is that you'll say, well, I'll look at it with decay, and I'll think that, like, and I think people, you know, in the general community were like, decay, what's that? And it's like, we all do exactly that. Literally, there's not a man of us that doesn't put your team on draft, check game week 1 and go, who have I got in game week? Oh, I'm not sure I can pick him because of game week 1. Like that's just naturally just applying decay as we go from it. And even, you know, you look at fixture tickers, we all look at it as how we do.
Yeah.
Like we do that approach. So it is what it is. You know, it's where we should play the game. Is that what we face into in game week 1 is more known than what we face into as well as time goes on. I think, you know, a lot of people now, as I mentioned, they know you from the analytics world. Like when did you move more into that world, and what does that even mean, I guess?
Yeah, okay. So when I started playing the game, I was quite young. I think I was 16 or so. So I played, I mean, basically based on vibes. So I mean, I just watched much less Premier League than now. So maybe I watched 1 game per week, maybe 2, often 0. So I was just, you know, picking the names that I knew at that time. And during my first season, especially during the first months, I had no idea what I was doing at all. So I was often taking, you know, like minus 16 hits, and right after in the next game week I would wildcard, things like that. And I wasted bench boost also in a single game week because, you know, I had no idea that was so valuable. And then when I started to like this game and got a little bit more into it, I started to incorporate some stats, but just some stats that I wouldn't even look at now, like, you know, shots on target, like touches in the box.
How far this, because I've heard you say this before. So help us out in this stats world. So some stats you wouldn't look at all. So what are the good stats and what are the bad stats?
Okay, I mean, for me right now, there's no point to look at like shots on target, for example, for a striker, because there's no point to look at that when we have XG, because XG is much more predictive. So we will get much more value from looking at XG than shots on target, and there's no point in using both of them because they essentially describe, you know, the same situations. I mean, or similar. So there's no point to look at both of them when we know that one of them is much more predictive than the other. So yeah, so that's how I started. Then I started to look at bookie odds for things like clean sheets or anytime goal scorers markets and assists. So I would use them to make decisions such as, you know, which defender to bench, who to captain, stuff like that. Then I would find out about XG, I think, and from then I think about 3 years ago or so I discovered FPL review, and yeah, haven't looked back since. Yeah.
Here we are, and yeah, FPL review. Look, yeah, you know, as I said, I find it very odd. The last 24 hours on Twitter, FPL review launched yesterday, and I see a world where people say that like that's outsourcing decisions, and then I see everyone will be like, "Hey, this is the way," and those spaces. I saw a really good tweet by Luke. Who, I'm sure you know Luke, but
yeah.
From Expected Goals, and I think it, you know, captures a lot of it. You know, we start with this game where we're like, I like that person. We then learn more about it, and we start looking at the stats and having chats with people and having things. FPL review is then just, it's a tool. It tells us, you know, it tells us the good stuff. You know, it helps us do this projections. We all in our minds, we all know that the more manual and grubby the work we do, that actually the more chance it's probably pretty crappy, and it's probably pretty crude, and it will also include a load more biases. You know, I think we talked, and you don't listen to a lot of content. I try to listen to a lot, and also friends of ours, the FML guys, they did an interview recently with a guy, Dr. Brad, around, you know, how we make decisions, and there was a really bit that played through with me where it's like, well, I like this guy, so what I'm going to go and do is look at as many stats as I possibly can until I find the reason that I like that says I can pick that guy, and then I'll choose it. So I'll be like, oh, shots in the box, and that's not penalty touches, and final third, that'll do, that'll work.
Yeah.
I can have him. And you know, it then gives us a better tool for us to then work through. And then the beauty of it then is once you're open to look at the tool, is then it then sends those conversations back to the people that you are friends with and want to play this game and chat to this game with, so that you can then get more excited and more involved in terms of having rounder conversations about it. And then eventually you end up with the team that you're really happy with. And I thought that was a really good way. And I do feel like there is a lot of pride at stake, where it's sometimes a bit of, well, no, I know what I'm doing, I don't need to look at those things. And you're like, oh, okay, so you don't look at anything. And you're like, well, you know, I go look at the stats.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. It's just what it is. And even more so, it's better than that, because there's some other tools and stuff where you can't adjust minutes, you can't do anything with it, you can't change your value of the transfer as to, you know, how you play, and you know, you can't change the projection of weeks that you want to work through. It has the ability, through a fantastic model and the ability that if you know how to use it, then you can really work through. Hey mate, it works. I think. Do you think there's that is some of the animosity that you see towards it, is that it works?
If it works, yeah, it certainly does work. But I mean, I find all the heated arguments about FPL a bit perplexing, because like whether we like it or not, we are all playing against each other, right?
Yeah.
Even if we are not in the same mini league, we are still competing against each other in the overall rank. So if I think that one particular way of playing is better than the other, then I don't see a point in trying to convince others that this is the way, because why would I want to make the field which I'm competing with better, right? So yeah, I never want to. I don't care that much about convincing others that like my way of playing, my style or whatever is better than others. But also, I think it's also too important to establish like why you are playing FPL. Like, I'm playing and fun in this game for me comes from just trying to be as good as I can be, and just reaching the best ranks that I can, and you know, climbing the Hall of Fames and all these other rankings. that gives me fun. But if for you fun comes from something else, and like, of course, do whatever you want. But I never try to tell anyone else how to play this game if they don't ask for me for any advice specifically, because I don't see a point in trying to convince others that my way of is better.
It's pretty good. Yeah. So what's your process? How do you engage with review? It launched. What happens now?
Yeah, so I had a scan yesterday of just which teams my first solved, which players my first solves consisted of. Then I had a look at all the xMins, so expected minutes, that were already on the site. So I had a quick scan and thought, okay, I disagree with these minutes. I will put them a bit higher. I disagree with these. I will put them a bit lower. So for example, just to give a specific example, in my first solve, I had Andreas Pereira from Fulham as a 5.5 mid, and his xMins were about 82, 83 for the game week 1. So I thought they are a bit high because he has just come back from injury.
Yeah, not played.
Yeah, just one substitute appearance, I think 25, 30 minutes. So I thought it's like overly optimistic to have him as high in terms of minutes for game week 1. So yeah, so I put them lower, and then in my next solve he didn't appear, and so then I had a scan again to look if there are any players that I thought were too high. So there was Thiago Silva, I think, from Chelsea. So he was also very high, and I thought, considering his age, that he's quite injury prone.
Was he 46 now, something like that?
Yeah, he will be 39 in a month or so.
Is it really 39?
Yeah, in a month or so. So I thought, that he shouldn't be in high 80s. So I put him down a little bit. Then I just remembered that, for example, then I was just interested in what are the minutes for Danjuma from Everton. They were like 55 or so. I thought, yeah, they are quite low. I will put them higher and see if he comes up in any solves. And yeah, so that's how I go about it for now, just focusing on minutes, because this is the part of the game that I have control over, so that I can research on my own, and then give my own input to review solver. And because there are certain cases where I feel confident enough that my read will be better than reviews in terms of minutes, expected minutes. So when I am confident enough, I will give my own input, and that happens, maybe not every week, but yeah, pretty often.
Pretty often. So you are a tinkerer on the minutes, man.
Yeah, all the time.
And for anybody else that is lost at this point, so basically on review, it will have a list and it'll have the minutes down the side, so I have predicted minutes for players, and obviously that then is factored into their projected points they're going to get in the most common terms I can use here.
Yeah.
And if you up minutes, obviously that player becomes more useful, and if you take minutes down, that player becomes less useful, and therefore it's unlikely when you then solve, i.e. ask that to tell you what's the optimal selection for you, that they'll come through. I mean, you might not mad to guess that I immediately put Richarlison up to about 85 minutes to see if I could get a Tottenham player in my team.
Yeah. How confident you are? Are you about Kane being?
I was up until about 2 days ago. I was almost certain that's the world we're in. But there is talks today that Van der Ven, and that sounds like quite a lot of money, up to maybe 50 million euros. I've heard that might be. And Tapsoba as well looks like it might be back on. And you're like, if we're going for both of those, it almost suggests we're spending the money before the money comes in, as it were. So it's difficult. But then there's the other loose comment that you hear that, hey, if we get better over the next few months, maybe you'll sign a contract. And I hate that, because that's just like that's like the best power play on earth, isn't it? You're a brilliant player. You can say, oh, I might sign a contract. Yeah, guess what? I'm not bothering. And now I can sign a contract for millions and millions.
Yeah, from FPL perspective, that's super important. I mean, I think
super important.
For me, if Kane goes to Bayern, I mean, I'm pretty sure that I will have Richarlison in my team as well. Yeah. I mean, he will be out of position probably. Like, I think we can be pretty confident that he will be the number 9, not Son, right? So
yeah.
So I think he becomes an extremely good pick in that scenario.
Oh, speaking good terms to me, mate. Speaking to good terms to me. So you go through, you do it, you look through your minutes, you work it through, you see how you feel fit. And I like that. I like that because I'm immediately then feels like I'm playing the game a bit more again. Like the second I'm into that, is there a danger that people just go nuts on the minutes and they're just like, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think it's possible to be overly optimistic or like pessimistic. So if you bump every player up to 90 minutes, of course, the players that will come up in solves will be the ones that have the best, baseline or the best minutes per return ratio. So that would include like players such as Foden or Darwin Núñez for sure. I mean, the ones that are definitely fantastic when they do play, but the question is if they will play.
Yeah, because what we should say is it's not like Review's made this unbelievable model and then God, I'm going to ignore minutes. I'll let you do that bit.
And that's actually one of the reasons why I prefer Review over other models so much more, because it has adjustable minutes, so I can choose
but it's not bad at minutes. It's not because and that's I guess the point is the fact that it just repeatedly updates. Like, why are people even bothering themselves now?
I mean, the last update, so after all the press conferences, all the team news, is 4 minutes is very, very, very good. But even so, you can still find some edges. I mean, I'm pretty sure that when I'm confident, I'm not that I have a good read on something, then I'm not worried to go against Review's the default minutes.
So let's ask that question then. If you think you know where you're at and on that bit, would that how does that make you feel about like early transfers and the world and chasing value and all that sort of thing?
I mean, I do early transfers. I make them very, very, very rarely. So of course it's very situational, because like if you have still have wildcard in your pocket and then you know that you will play it soon, then it might be more viable to make an early transfer than when you've already played your wildcard. But usually in most cases, I much more prefer having the most info available than to gain 0.2, 0.3 of team value, because I put much more emphasis on information than on team value.
That's good to know. And obviously, in game week 1, everyone's at 0.5 or 0.0, aren't they? And therefore, it's by the time you make your first transfer, there's always a chance that you're going to be priced out. So does that change at all? Or even things like, do you like the idea of keeping money in the bank at the start?
I think I've never started with any money in the bank, but it's not because I'm against it, just because I've always found that the team that I could build with 100 million was sufficiently better than the one for 99.5. That the upgrade of 500,000 was
worth it.
Was worth it, yeah.
That's interesting.
But if you are happy with your 99.5 team and that the upgrade isn't good enough, then by all means, I think it's viable to leave it in the bank.
Good to know. It's good to know. And obviously, with Review, you have the wonderful world of MD rank. I'll let you explain more than me. What does MD rank mean?
Okay, so I mean, how I see it now is like a sense check of the level of play that I'm at. I mean, how good my decisions are basically. So it's like a game within a game within a game. So we like to accumulate MD points based on FPL review massive data model, and just based on how many expected points we accumulate every week, it gets add up over the season, and the sum of it is basically our MD score, which then translates into MD rank. So it takes all of the managers in the world, and just lists them in terms of who had the most MD points. I'm not obsessive about it. I don't care that much if I'm top 10, top 50, top 100s. As long as it's quite good, then I'm okay with it, because like I said before, there are cases that I go against review. But it was a bit different last season to this season. It will be a bit different, because last season what the MD rank included was the xMins at deadline. So that meant that if, for example, Haaland's xMins were 80 at deadline, then no matter if he played 0 or 90 minutes during the game itself, he would get the EV as if he was 80 minutes, right? And
Okay.
and so it meant that there was less variance in terms of like injuries in warm up. So if your player got injured in warm up, then you would still got that EV.
Right.
But now this season, the review made some changes, and we will get the MD rank will be based on actual minutes played.
Okay.
So if Haaland plays 90 minutes and he's in your team, you will get his EV for 90 minutes. And if he's benched and he doesn't come on at all, you will get 0 minutes. So that means that users will be maybe hopefully encouraged to always use their own inputs or own
That's what I was going to say.
beliefs.
That becomes more fun than the day. So basically, the person that the higher the massive data rank almost suggests the better they are working through minutes. Not, I mean, they've obviously still got to pick minutes of players that are going to do well, but that makes it slightly more interesting.
But we always still need to remember that there's still a lot of luck involved in it. I mean, if you are very unlucky with injuries, for example, then your MD rank will tank down. And so while it's still a very good sense check as to your to how good you are playing, it's not necessary. I mean, whoever finishes MD1 isn't necessarily the best manager in the world. I mean, far from it. I mean, the last season, the person who finished MD1, JC, is a great player, so maybe he is. I'm not sure.
I'm going to edit out this sentence so that we just had the previous bit where you said, like, person who finishes #1 isn't the best. So so JC doesn't get that credit.
I mean, he might
start some analytics beef. No, he's not. He's not. He's brilliant.
He's brilliant. So he might very well be, but of course it's not. We will never know. I mean, I think it's impossible. But another good sense check that we have is the XG rank. So it only is only concerned with the events on the pitch. So like shots and shots conceded for goalkeepers and defenders. So it's I also like looking at that.
Let's get into some players, can we?
Yeah, of course.
Let's get into some players in there. So our friend of the pod, Hibbo, had sent me earlier the sensitivity analysis. So sensitivity analysis. So basically, from review, it's run 50 solves, and to each of those it applies some noise. So basically, that would potentially impact outcomes and minutes, and tells you who the sort of most selected players it would be in each position. So in goal, let's start with the in goal. It looked like there's sort of 4 characters that appear. Highest being Steele at Brighton. Kepa as well was appearing regularly. Pickford, the alternative at the 4.5s, and then our favourite friend Ederson.
Yeah. So I think like a goalkeeper is one of the most interesting positions right now for Game Week 1. Because I think at every price point there's a very good option and which is very good for value for money. And it also depends a bit on your own minutes beliefs, because if you are very confident that Steele is number 1 for Brighton and he won't be usurped by Verbruggen, right? Yeah, then he becomes a viable pick, but I'm not that sure yet. I'm not convinced that he won't lose his place. You know, I mean, I'm quite confident that he will start the season, but not sure how confident that he will still be number 1 as the season goes on. So right now, I don't think that I will start a Steele as long as I'm not convinced. So if going for 4.5, I think at the moment I prefer Pickford. For 5 million, yeah, we just before we started recording, there was a confirmation that Sanchez will go to Chelsea, right?
Yes.
So similarly to Brighton's case, I'm not sure about how long Kepa's place is safe. So I'm also quite hesitant and on going with him. So at 5 million at the moment, I think I would prefer Onana. And at 5.5, I still very much like Ederson at the start of the season, mainly because of City's fixtures, and because I'm not too concerned about tripling up on Man City with him, and I'm not too keen on any attackers apart from Haaland for the start of the season. So yeah, so that's one of the reasons that I think Ederson is viable.
One of the things I've noticed before in you is you have done a fair number of double up, triple ups, either at the back or in attack. Is that deliberate that you go for that kind of approach more so, or is it just, hey, that's what it looks like?
Yeah,
is the optimal way?
The latter, because I mean, if I think that it will yield more points, or if it has the highest expected value, then I will go for that. But the main consideration is always not to block potentially better options from the same team. So, like, yeah, exactly. Last season, I tripled up on Newcastle's defense.
Yeah.
And then I was essentially blocked from going to either Isak or Wilson later on in the season. So that's why I'm not sure if it was the right decision, if I, thought about Isak and Wilson sufficiently. But as for the risk itself, having 3 defenders and sometimes having 300 EO of Newcastle's defense, or even 400, because once I captained Trippier.
Yeah.
That was that didn't go too well. But then I don't really mind. I mean, having triple of defense for a team, no, doesn't matter for me.
I've done it plenty of times, but I hate it every time I do it. It's just so horrible. And even this season, especially with potentially like longer games with extra injury time and the rest of it, it's like, oh God, triple ups is just going to be.
Makes for a really exciting watch though. Like when there were a few occasions when Newcastle conceded like in 70th or 80th minute, and I was already hoping for the clean sheet.
Any take on, so Onana is I'm going to say he's the highest selected keeper of players that we almost certainly definitely will start, because Areola's got more, but we don't know if he starts or not. So in the actual game, Onana is, but and you said there you like him at the 5.0, but not seeing any of it, not playing through when we're looking at Souls and the like. Any thoughts behind that?
For Onana, I think he's good long term. I mean, because I'm not sure when I will wildcard, and he just if I won't have money for Ederson, then he might be the best 5 million keeper long term, just because of that. But his fixtures at the beginning are very mixed, because he has
Just two good ones, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, easy home games. I mean, they're plotted between difficult away games, so I'm not sure.
I guess some of the reasons he possibly doesn't put that through, though, is if we move into defenders, Shaw is still like 30% of souls that's coming through there. And then obviously Bruno and Rashford, when we get to them, they're in the majority. So there is a potential that that's the triple up, isn't there, I suppose?
Yeah. And then that's also the point with tripling on a team that I'm very confident that I will have Rashford and Bruno. So then I'm not exactly sure how confident I am in Onana being within top 3 United players, because there's a chance that I will want to have Shaw later on, and then that spot is blocked. I mean, you will then need 2 transfers to switch them.
Maybe even Højlund. You never know.
Yeah, maybe.
Moving to defenders, so Estupiñán and Chilwell look like no-brainers.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I like them, especially with a deeper squad. With Estupiñán, his first 3 opening fixtures are great. I mean, almost as good as it gets, but then it gets quite dicey in the next 5 or so game weeks. So I like him with a deeper squad, because then it's possible to rotate him, to the bench and start some other guys. So I like him and I generally like deeper squads, and then it's possible to hide those players with bad fixtures on the bench. So that's one of the reasons that I like deeper squads. And with Chilwell, it's similar, because if you have, Gabriel, Estupiñán, and Stones in defense, then you can, of course, bench Chilwell in game week 1 similarly, and then
when give it bench Chilwell in game week 1, though, like genuinely, like Liverpool, everybody knows like they can't defend down their right hand side. Chilwell's playing basically in a front 3 on the left hand side. He's playing at home. Like, how on earth can we bench Chilwell?
I think you can play him, but just the question is he better than any of those players that you can field? And at the moment, for me, I mean, I think that I have 11 better players for that week in my first 11, so that's why.
I've got them. I've got that 4 you've just mentioned at the moment, and I keep swaying between whether, if it would be those 4, how comfortable will I be putting Stones on the bench, and then it's Friday night and it's the first game, and you just know what's coming.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely play Stones ahead of Chilwell if that's the conundrum. Yeah.
But it does start to then play me through. The one on that side that I necessarily don't like going forward is probably Arsenal defense. Is that they've obviously got, again, opening 3 is good, but the rest of it's okay, but it's not brilliant in there. So it looks like, from what I'm seeing from picks, is that Estupiñán, Chilwell, a City defend. Obviously, Ruben, based on the minutes, is always my favourite. You said Stones earlier. Would you be Stones over?
Right at the moment, I have Stones, yeah, but I think they are similar. I mean, I think Diaz has a small edge in terms of minutes, but I'm more confident in him starting. But Stones has an edge in terms of attacking potential and also bonus, I think. So yeah, it's just a question which you value more, or what difference in terms of xMins you establish for them.
Yeah.
But I think either is viable. Maybe even both of them in one team.
And then other players, we've got Cash 4.5, James obviously back at the world. Chelsea in general. Shaw, Gabriel we've mentioned. Trippier at all? You mentioned earlier about decay and so forth. Would you? Obviously, the good thing about Trippier is he has game week 1, but then it's like, how can you stash a man for so long in those cases?
Yeah. So like in the solve that I did and make my own preliminary plans, I had a lot of Trippier in transfers around game week 5 when his good fixtures start. So I seriously doubt that I would start with him, but maybe transfer him in after this first initial difficult fixtures run. And for Cash, I think I wouldn't go with him, because I'm not that sure about his minutes. because I mean I think Emery favored that 3 at the back in possession.
3 at the back, and we don't know which side it's going to be.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not too sure about that. And yeah.
What about Villa in general though? Like if you substitute Cash for Pau, because that's one that I looked at.
Yeah. I think I would prefer Pau. Yeah.
And in general, how many defenders would you have? That would are you 4.0 man or try and stay away?
I'm not sure yet. I mean, the 4 that we've already mentioned, I'm quite settled on for now, but not 100%, of course.
This is making me feel better, yeah. It's making me feel better.
And the 5th one, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, can be a 4.0 even, maybe Cabora. Can be a 4.5, maybe Botman, maybe Pau, maybe Colwell.
So I've currently got Nana. I've got Stupin and Chilwell, Stones.
No, I mean, I don't have I don't have a Nana in my team actually.
Pickford at the moment?
No, Ederson.
Is it Ederson? It's got to be Ederson, isn't it? Yeah. It's got to be Ederson until you don't. Yeah. But Ederson, the man. Interesting. But yeah, you'd have to be really convinced on a 4.0, would you? To be thinking that's
defender. Yeah. But also that depends how secure your other players are. I mean, so that if you are going with 4.0 in defense, I think that's like one of the things that would favor Ruben over Stones, because if we, in case we agree that he's better for minutes, then it's better if and your like 14th and 15th player and so on are not you wouldn't want to kill them, then it's better to go for as few xMins risks as possible,
And then we move to midfield.
In midfield, I mean, I'm quite settled on the very popular 4 of Rashford, Bruno, Saka, and Buemo. And on the 5th one, I'm not sure at all. I mean, currently I have Eze, but it could very well be like a more expensive striker, and 4.5 in that spot could be Danjuma, could be an Arsenal mid, 2nd one.
Yeah. I must admit, I'm really torn in this world. I'll be interested in your view in this world of like I found myself. So we heard yesterday that Jesus is out and so forth, and did the thing of put Watkins in and then look at I've still got a bit of money around. What should I do? And I've had Saka, Bruno, Rashford the whole time. Like that's fine. But then I'm looking at those other 2 spots, and I had Martinelli and Matoma.
Yeah.
And I look at it and go, why do I want a left winger that's not on set pieces against a talisman that's on set pieces, on penalties in Eze and Bumo? And help me. Like help me how much you value penalty takers, how much the Bumo bit, the Eze bit, the not Matoma bit. Like
I think like both of them are super secure in terms of minutes. I mean, Buemo and Eze. So and so and they are on penalties exactly, and some other set pieces, and they especially in Buemo have good opening fixtures. Okay, we can omit Spurs if you'd like to, but
it's still not though. like mate, Lion City Sailors scored against us, so
Yeah. I think Spurs at home is a good fixture still, and then it's a question whether they are better than Brighton mids. I mean, I'm confident on Buemo is, and I've thought that ever since the game launched when I saw that he is a 6.5 mid. It was I guess a nice surprise, but no, I didn't expect him to be that popular.
I mean, he is. He is popular.
I think that's
because it makes sense. Like this is the bit I keep ticking through my brain. Is it just makes sense? It's like, hold on, he's 6.5. He takes penalties. He's got good fixtures.
How
bad's it going to be?
So it's like one of those that I've had in my team ever since my super quick first draft on launch day. So I'm very confident in him.
So 5th midfielder is basically where you're at the moment, trying to work through. Because I'm assuming Haaland is in.
Yeah, of course.
2nd striker?
Watkins.
is Watkins.
Mhm.
And so you must be in a similar position to me in that sense. Oh, you've spent a bit extra on Edison, haven't you? In that you had almost a little bit of money, so therefore, there are options around how you could spend that money. So Watkins is done, Haaland's done.
Yeah, so like the question is about fifth mid now and maybe third striker, because I mean I don't like any of the budget strikers. I mean I was hopeful about DCL at the beginning. I mean like a month ago, but he's just getting up to speed, right? So I think he is far too risky to start with.
Yeah.
And then I'm not confident at all about like Brighton forwards, about their minutes.
Have you tinkered at all with João Pedro's minutes?
No, not really. I mean, even no. I mean, at the moment, no. I would have to be. I would have much more confidence about his minutes to put him in. So yeah, there's no one that I like. I mean, if Nkunku's injury isn't serious at all, then maybe I will think about him either instead of Watkins or in addition to. So then I would go with Haaland, Watkins, and Nkunku front line instead of fifth mid, and then I would have to take some money out of Ederson or defense, of course.
Yeah, so that, but you're probably okay because you could just go, even if it was Edison to Pickford, that easy pace for it, but or the 4.5 to 4.0, so you've got the options there. Just in general on that, on new players to the league, does it bother you?
That being you, no, not at all. I mean, if someone scores, I mean, you just have to always use some kind of league translation, so knowing like how much was that, yeah, exactly, yeah, like Bundesliga tax and so on. How much was that league is than the Premier League, and then go from there. I mean, like depends on the player, of course. I mean, I'm super confident in Nkunku being like a great addition to Chelsea. So I'm not worried about him. The worry with him for me is, I mean, his position, that there's some uncertainty whether he'll be number 9, number 10, or left wing or whatever.
Yeah.
So because in comparison to Watkins, if you would have to choose between them, it's not great to pick a reverse out of position player when the alternative is Watkins.
The thing with that though, like I was thinking about that, if he was a 7.5 midfielder, like I don't know, will we see more of him? Whenever you have these changes that you see, either because of position changes, because of where they play, I always do a little recalculation of their points, basically, of where we see a change of position, to say actually how beneficial is that. So I'm a nerd, so I'll literally walk through the bonus for every single game they played and work through how many bonus points would he gain, how many points would he lose, how many clean sheet points would he gain, and so forth and so forth. It's always negligible. It's like 5 points. Like, it's really, really rare that it makes a difference, because if you're a player that plays out of position but you're a striker, chances are your baseline is more nearer like 10, which means if you score, you're almost guaranteed free bonus. Like it's almost like a guaranteed, it's always like it is still your 5 points and your clean sheet, because you're gonna get it, as such. And sometimes the other way around, if you're a midfielder that doesn't do anything, so like Harvey Barnes is the old school one of a guy that does no defensive work whatsoever, always classified as a midfielder, which is kind of right because he's not a 9, but for the purpose of this conversation, his baseline is like 3-4. So even if he scores, because he misses so many chances and the like, he never gets any bonus. So although he gets his clean sheets, although he gets that extra point for a goal, it doesn't really make a big difference. And it's funny, this trying to work through this 3-4-3 or the 3-5-2 within Nkunku. What if you could get a 3-4-3 and then your playing player is 4.5? I suppose that would mean you might then be more tempted to go a 4.0 in defense. Would that be more the case?
Yeah, maybe a little bit, because right now at the moment I think if I go with 4.5 forward, then I would go with the one that's already out of the game, because I have like all 3 of mine at the moment in my real draft are out of the game already. I mean, Sims, Sarich, and Planche.
Yeah.
So I would just pick one of them, unless I would be quite confident in one of the 4.5 minutes that's still in the league, like Mubama or whoever. And then, I mean, yeah, I guess the 4.5 midfielder is quite a lot better than 4.5 forward, but I'm not sure if that's enough to tempt me to go with 4.0 defender, because they're really, really bad, and then you can't really use
You don't want to
rotation
use it.
your rotation that much. Yeah.
Yeah. If next week Balogun gets linked with a Prem move away, would you be tempted to put Balogun in your team and not triple up on Arsenal?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment I have only 2 Arsenal, so there's still some
Well, I think people are
wiggle
now.
room.
Yeah, I think suddenly people have got a bit more wiggle room than they had before last night.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, then that would be at least a consideration. But and of course, it depends on how credible the news would be, and I mean, who would report it and so on. But if you would be linked to a team like West Ham, then yeah, for sure I would consider it.
If Balogun comes on Sunday for Arsenal as well,
I mean, I'm not sure how much importance to put on that community shield in terms of predicting the lineup for game week 1. Like, I'm not sure if Arteta would use exactly the same lineup against Man City at Wembley as against Nottingham Forest at home. Like, against City, he can use something like Havertz at 9 to bypass City's press, and then against Forest he can put Nketiah for his pressing or something. Yeah, so I'm not sure. Like, if we can be confident that whoever starts as number 9 against City will start in the following week as well.
Yeah. It's a different game. It's a very different game. It's a very, very different game. That's really good. Really good. Let me check my little, because there were others. So thank you for people that have sent questions in. I've tried to incorporate as many of them as we can. Let's see if I've got any quick fire ones. So wildcard you're not sure on, but potentially the end or game week 9 is what we're thinking on that one.
I mean, yeah, game week 9 is international break, and it's just some turn of fixtures for many teams, and also because after 8 game weeks we are starting to get some sufficient sample size to at least take some credence from it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it, and also the transfer window is over, and that's also important very much.
Do you ever do 4.5 rotating keepers or 4.5 rotating defenders?
Yeah, I do it, but I've at the start of the season I did that in the past for sure, but can't remember the last time. But especially when in the doubles and blanks time, and so in the second half of the season, I pretty much always have 2 rotating keepers.
2 rotating keepers.
Yeah, and later on, yeah. But at this start of the season, like, I mean, for this season, I don't think I will have 2 of them. I mean, unless we will get a plain 4.0, of course, then definitely.
Yeah, always a chance.
Oh yeah, or not really. Maybe then I will be tempted by 2 4.0s, like my old Ward and Iverson.
Ward, Iverson, Kings.
Yeah.
We might get Matty Turner might go, mightn't he, if Raya goes.
Yeah, maybe Heaton. I don't know.
Heaton, Areola, we're still not sure on. We got Bentley at Wolves, so there is chances, but yeah, good. I think we're there. I feel slightly better about the start of the season now than I did at the start, because I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh God, I don't feel quite so bad, and you're great. That's it, isn't it? Like that is the point of
quite
my draft.
Team selection.
My draft hasn't massively changed because review was out yesterday and so forth, and most of us align because hey, we're all using the same stuff. It's not like there's weird secret data in review that they go like, oh, do you know about this metric that's not published anywhere else? It is what it is. We're still all playing the same game.
Yeah, stats are always about what's happening on the pitch itself. So, and there's no magic in it. Yeah.
We all love each other. Nobody hates each other. Everyone's friends. Jan, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Let's get a prediction. Are we going to get you're saying you're not going to get a top 1K finish this year?
No. No. I would love to, but it's not likely. So yeah, it would be foolish to say yes.
Win it. Just go win it. Just go win it, Jan. Show us how it's done. Show us how it's done. Thank you very much for coming on, mate.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.